Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guests today took their experience from 5-star restaurants and resorts and basically opened a family and family friend owned restaurant serving up fresh New England seafood and Southern style catfish and prime steaks in a family friendly setting. Please welcome the owners of the Nauti Lobstah, Christine Gonzalez, Cara Oates-Rumplik, and Chef Mike Rumplik. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
good morning.
How are we doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time with me during my lunch break. I really appreciate it. My usual, since obviously it's a lunch break, I'm going to ask the question, and obviously as a restaurant owner, I know you're going to automatically think Nauti Lobster, so it's twofold. Inside of Nauti Lobster, what is your go-to lunch? And then outside of Nauti Lobster, where you're not at work, what is your go-to or favorite lunch, sandwich, things like that?
My favorite sandwich here at the restaurant is a grilled grouper sandwich.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about outside the restaurant?
Outside the restaurant, my favorite lunch is a little Italian restaurant. They make cavatelli.
What's cavatelli?
It's a short little heavy, dense pasta with a little pomodoro sauce.
Okay.
It's a great lunch.
So before I ask, I want to before I go to you two ladies, I need to ask this question because I've had other chefs and I talked to other restaurant owners. The reality of it is, on a day-to-day, what do you actually eat for lunch? Because I'm pretty sure that you don't actually eat for lunch, and do you bring a packed lunch, or do you what do you usually do for on a day-to-day? Like, let's say today when you're working, what do you do, Chef Mike?
Normally, at most, I'll have a salad. That's really about it.
Okay. Cara, Christine, what's give me the Nauti Lobster answer, and then give me outside of Nauti Lobster, what's your go-to lunch and sandwich?
I'm going to say both of us tend to go towards the salad. We each have a salad, but every now and then we do get that craving for a fillet or a lobster roll, which we'll split. Mm-hmm. And for me, outside of the Nauti Lobster, locally down where I am is the crooked can, and any kind of sandwich or meal that I can get in that crooked can area, whether it's barbecue or pizza or
Cara, what about you?
So at the Nauti Lobster, I do like the crab cake sandwich, but in all transparency, I'm not the biggest seafood eater.
Yep.
So it was really important for me when we developed the menu that there were options for non-seafood eaters. So our chicken sandwich is amazing. And like Christine said, if we do a salad, I'll do grilled chicken on top. Our burger is, the best you'll have. And people may not expect that at a seafood restaurant, but, the supplier that Mike uses it's just a really, really good quality product. Outside of that, we have a local place called Cafe Verona that we order pizza from sometimes for our staff, and they have a great chicken parm sub. So that's one of my favorites, too.
I love a good chicken parm sub. I love a good chicken parm sub. So I have the fortunateness of getting to meet you guys because of my friend Lisa and Christine from Fig Media, who they've been a guest on the past. They told me and they invited me to come and eat here at the Nauti Lobster in Apopka, and I've been very fortunate because obviously I liked it enough that I went back again, took my wife. It's one of those places where automatically I will think about when it comes to seafood. Obviously I know you have other things besides seafood, which we'll definitely talk about, but I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how did this all come about? Like, how did this idea of the two of you and Christine come about to join forces to say, hey, we want to start and we want to do the Nauti Lobster?
So for Mike and I, we've actually been talking about doing a restaurant for almost 10 years, kind of on and off. And about 6-7 years ago, we had a spot. It was a different concept. We had a spot picked out. We had worked on it for a couple of years, and it fell through at the last minute. And we were a little, deflated. So we said, let's just put it on the back burner. But I always knew that we would do it someday. I didn't know when, and COVID happened. And then Christine and Mike and I were all working at hotels where we were furloughed, like, most people. And we said, now's the time. Like, we have the time, literally, to do it. And Christine said, well, I want in. And so we talked to Mike one day. We said, listen, what do you really enjoy? And you can talk about this a little, honey, but growing up in New England, I mean, seafood and lobster rolls, I mean, that's just his passion. And so we worked on a menu and started looking for spots. And we looked at probably 20 different locations before we found here. You know, we don't live in Apopka. We didn't really know much about Apopka. But as soon as we walked into this spot, we knew that this was it. The three of us immediately said, this is it. So,
Mike, when you guys were looking, when you and Cara were originally looking to start something many years ago before the Nauti Lobster, was it always going to be New England seafood? Was that always the idea, or was the concept different?
Yeah, it was different. At that time, we were thinking about sliders.
Okay.
And all different kinds of sliders, not just burgers. It was
nice.
Crab cakes, portobello mushrooms, all kinds of different
Still
sliders.
something that could be added to the menu, which is great.
Yeah.
And then Christine, how did you? So then, tell people. Let's give a little back origin story, because obviously, one of the things that I mentioned in my intro is that you guys have dealt with 5-star restaurants and resorts. You guys all have very vast experience when it comes to working in the industry, in the hospitality industry. Can you guys give a little bit of a background of what you guys have done? Kind of, once again, it's a lunch break, so just a little bit of a kind of a taste to tell people like where your backgrounds come, because I feel like that's a very important aspect where all your backgrounds together create what this atmosphere is and what you're providing here at the Nauti Lobster. That's the reason why you guys have been best service, awarded for best service, nominated for best seafood, and things like that. So that's kind of, I want to kind of give people a little bit of an inkling of where your background is, because it's not one of those where, obviously there's people that have some insight that say, hey, I really love doing this. I have a passion for this. But you guys also have a lot of industry and a lot of chops when it comes to this. And so I'm very intrigued by the aspect of what you guys are bringing to the table when you guys decided to open this.
Well, for me, I grew up in Rhode Island. And so when I was younger, I worked in probably 4 or 5 different restaurants around doing seafood, the New England seafood, doing lobsters and that kind of thing, fresh chowders and then clam cakes and that kind of thing. And then, I moved around. I worked in Texas for a little while, in a hotel in Texas, been to Europe for a little bit, and then we opened up probably 3 different hotels back in Orlando, at the Dolphin, we opened up the Peabody, and then I worked at Rosen Center for 15 years or so. So we had, get quite a bit of different experience all the way around.
Quite a bit. What about you, Cara and Christine?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, and my career in the hotel industry, which is almost 40 years, started at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. And from there, I moved around. I came down to Florida and also worked at Rosen Center with Mike and Cara. From there, I moved to Hawaii. I've worked in Spain, and now I'm in Apopka.
Crazy.
I know, isn't it? And we're 3 good friends that just wanted to go on this adventure. And I don't know anything about cooking. I don't cook at all. I always say that I have a kitchen because it came with the house. But my expertise and Cara's expertise more so lies in the front of the house. While Mike is an extraordinary chef and provides outstanding food, we're all of the belief that the service has to be par with good quality food, and that's what Cara and I do on a daily basis. Service is critical, and what Cara and I do on a daily basis is just engage with customers and talk and just make sure that we keep that friendly family atmosphere in the restaurant.
What about you, Cara?
I started when I was 19 working at the Boca Raton Resort and Club, which was a 5-star resort. And it was interesting because I had applied, I was in school for hospitality, working at Publix, and my teacher said, Cara, it's time. You need to get a job in your field. And I had applied at some Holiday Inns near my house, and they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have experience. And then he had a student that worked at the Boca Resort. I applied and got hired on the spot. And then I was there for about 8 years. So that was a great training ground from a service perspective. I mean, first job is 5-star. And so I took that everywhere with me. And I worked at the Rosen Center twice, from 1996 to 2001. I moved to New York, and I did corporate sales for a restaurant group up there. We had 7 restaurants. And then moved back and went back to the Rosen Center, which is when I met Mike and Christine. And again, just having that experience from a service perspective, like Christine said, to us, that has to be just as good as the food. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And we like to say that we feel like we're welcoming people into our home, and this is how we would treat them. We try to make connections with them, and it's an experience. It's not just a transactional thing where they come in and have a meal and leave.
No, I totally agree with that. What so you brought up earlier about the 20, you guys like visited over 20 locations trying to find the right spot. Obviously finding the right spot on the previous thing. So obviously it's very important now. What's interesting about this particular location, which I definitely want to hear the story about how that kind of came about, because where this location, the Nauti Lobster is located, Nauti Lobstah, sorry, located in Apopka, is a former location that was here for many years, over 30-something years, called the Catfish Place. And so I kind of want to hear the story about how that kind of went about, because obviously it was an institution. And what I love, one of my favorite things when I met you guys and you guys started talking about it was, and I kind of want to know where the thought process came from about it, but was the fact that you guys not only wanted to bring your New England style seafood, because that's what you loved, but you also understood and took that into account of what this location brought with like the place was about. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, how you guys found the place, as well as also what kind of brought into the idea of incorporating some of that menu into your menu item as making it now part of the Nauti Lobstah.
Yeah, we like I said, we started looking, and Mike and I live in Dr. Phillips and Christine's in Ocoee, so naturally we started looking in those areas,
yeah.
Winter Garden, and it's very difficult and it's very expensive. And our broker, who we've known for the 10 years we've been looking, and he's wonderful, he would take us to these locations, and sometimes the rents were just, I don't know how places survived, and they didn't in many cases. So, but Mike also got emails with listings available, and he said to us one day, so there's this place in Apopka called the Catfish Place, and we were like, where? We never came up here. We didn't know anybody that lived here. We worked on that side of town. So we scheduled a visit to come, and we met Bob and Elaine Johnson, the previous owners. And like I said, when we walked in, we just felt the warmth and how welcoming it was. And we all immediately said that there's potential here for us. And then we got to know them, and Bob, we worked more closely with Bob. And we were lucky that for 2 months prior to us closing, we were here every day working with Bob. He would introduce us to everybody he knew, which is everybody in town. And it made the transition that much easier. A lot of times when you buy a restaurant, you get 2 weeks with the owner and they're gone, and that's it. Yeah. And we had that. It gave Mike time to start getting his suppliers lined up and getting the lobster tank set up. And Bob was just key to that. And it allowed us to gain the trust of the community, because they were nervous naturally. And I understand that. We've all had our favorite restaurants in our town. And it just was very clear to us that we needed to keep their menu. 38 years of something that worked. Why would we shoot ourselves in the foot and just get rid of it? You know, we're not too proud. It was selfish in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, and within the 2 months, I spent with Bob, and we learned all the recipes that he had all these years. Everything from the coleslaw, the sweet potatoes, the hush puppies, the catfish recipes, and all these were very successful, and they're very good. So I felt that I had no need to tweak them or do anything. They're great.
And I'm always curious about things like that, especially with like a chef, because obviously everyone kind of wants to put their own spin on things. So and then at the same time, I can also see as it being something that they've had for so long that they sometimes want to keep it close to their chest, close to the vest, right? So how difficult is that, or how great was it the fact that he wanted to share that, share his recipes and share all that details? Because I can see the world of I don't know, and you can correct me because obviously I'm not a chef. How comfortable people are sharing recipes and what they do and tricks and techniques.
Bob was fantastic.
Yeah,
he's got a tablet, and we went through each recipe together to make sure that I understood it, and he's first class. I have to say.
Yeah, and I wanted to add I think that the relationship that we formed with Bob, it was very important for Bob to know that his work of 38 years was going to continue.
Yeah.
And we developed such a great relationship with him that he was very comfortable sharing his recipes, knowing that Mike would take those recipes and we would carry on, and it's his legacy. And yeah, we would have been foolish to not have his specialties, on the menu. And those locals continue to come to enjoy catfish. Some have expanded their palate and have tried, some of our Nauti Lobster menu items. And they've all remained loyal. And in addition to that, not only just the recipes, but my gosh, we were so fortunate in having the staff. The staff really helped us with the transition. We never closed our doors. One day we were the Catfish Place, and the next day we were the Nauti Lobster, and all of the staff stayed with us. And there are some folks that have been here 38 years,
wow,
28 years, 34 years, and they're still with us today. And they helped us meet the community, develop the relationships with the community, and they're still with us today. And we're very, very fortunate. Bob still comes to our restaurant to have dinner. To have lunch.
I always joke that Bob still has the keys.
Yes.
He does.
He does.
He does.
That's
Yeah.
He actually, if the security alarm goes off at 2 a.m, he'll call me and tell me I can get there before you do. Let me go check it out. And
wow.
so
That
is priceless.
That is amazing. And then there are elements. So I'm kind of curious on since obviously there was such a quick transition, what was that like in when you, because obviously I was never at the Catfish Place. So if someone were to come in from the that had come to the Catfish Place and then came in and I know obviously it was a quick turnaround, how much of the decor was the same, or did you change? I know there's certain things like that. I know there's the train. I know there's some things that kind of stayed. So I kind of wanted to get a little bit of an idea of that.
Yeah, because it was such an institution and there's so many memories here from this community, we wanted to keep, as much as we could. And just as we've merged the two menus together, we've kind of merged the decor. So we've put some more nautical decor, but then you'll see the wood plaque that says the Catfish Place.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So we don't want people to walk in and say, oh my gosh, this is totally different. We want them to still have that comfortable feeling. And, when we seat people, we try to give a little bit of a history, and we say, have you been in recently? Have you been in since we switched? And when we did switch, yes, it did. One day it was the Catfish Place, next day it was the Nauti Lobster, but it was a very slow transition. We added a couple menu items. The sign out front still said the Catfish Place. And then it got to a point where we kind of had to rip the Band-Aid off because it was confusing to people.
Yeah.
So, but we did it very gradually so that it wasn't a shock, to people coming in. I mean, we still have people that come in and say, oh, I didn't know this wasn't the Catfish Place anymore. And we say, it's okay. You can still get your catfish. No worries.
Yeah.
You can call us what you want. You can order what you want.
it happened yesterday, actually. A woman came in and said,
And you mentioned the train. The train has been here 28 years?
25 years.
25 years, 28 years. And it was built by Bob for his son Alex, who Alex grew up in the kitchen here at the Catfish Place, and was with us up until a few months ago, where he decided on a career change. And the train every now and then needs a little bit of oiling, but it's people ask us about it.
And the reason
adults.
for the
Adults more
is the
than
reason
kids.
for the train, because if I remember correctly, it was part of a train depot. Is that what it was?
This was a train depot.
Okay.
It was the train depot for Standard Oil and Gulf Oil. So we have this building here, and then we have a building across the street that right now is just storage. But you'll see on our patio the original signs on the wall for Standard Oil and Gulf Oil. So the trains would come, the oil barrels would get put on the train, and there was a turnstile just at the end here, and the train would turn around and go back. So it's a lot of history. The floors are, the wood floors are from the 20s. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's a lot of history in this building. We
Yeah.
actually had the Apopka Historical Society did a whole timeline of who owned it, when, and what it became, because it was a gift shop at one point, and it was a Liam Rick's Oyster Bar, excuse me, at one point. So, yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of history.
So, Cara, I find it very interesting because I always jokingly will say, when someone goes to a seafood place, why would you get like the steak or the chicken?
Right.
But what I love about your story is the fact that was like the one thing you told Mike when you're like, hey, listen, I'm not a seafood person. I need to have good quality steaks and all those things, which is interesting because you guys mentioned about like the different burgers and the different things that you can order. Mm-hmm. How interesting? What is that conversation like sometimes? Or I guess when you guys kind of come up with the idea of like, okay, well, how do we make it so? Because obviously you don't want to go too far,
right?
But at the same time, you kind of want to make it where it's a place where everyone can kind of get pretty much anything at any time.
And that's exactly it. We wanted any group of people or any couple, whoever, if Mike and I go to dinner, I don't want to go to a place that's only seafood because it's just not my favorite thing. So the steaks, and Mike can talk about this more in detail, but the steaks, the chicken that we have, chicken sandwiches, are delicious. And it's funny, I'll talk to tables and somebody will say, well, I don't eat seafood. Almost like they're challenging, I don't eat seafood. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I got a confession to make. I married a chef and opened a seafood restaurant. I don't eat seafood either. And then they look at you and I said, yeah, but you know what? Our filet mignon is my favorite thing on the menu. But I have expanded my horizons too.
Yeah.
I like the crab cake sandwich. I love the clam cakes that he makes. But we have vegan items. We have, our son is vegan. We have vegan items. Mike has 2 sisters that have celiac. We have gluten-free items. So we don't want anybody to be able to say, I can't go there because. Yeah. So we have a lot of options with still staying with what our specialty is.
Yeah, the steaks that we use are Creekstone steaks. That's it's a high-end Black Angus. It's top quality. It's the same steaks that I used at the hotel when I was there for 15 years. So they're top notch. The filet, I top it off with a gorgonzola butter.
Nice.
The ribeye, we have a little crispy onion that goes on top of that. The sirloin, I do some caramelized onions with a little hollandaise. The sirloin itself it's a very tender, high-end steak. It's well aged, well marbled. It's good.
You're making me drool. So let's talk about. So I know we're talking about that the meats, which obviously I love the meats, but I was very intrigued when we first met, and you brought up the mussels and the oysters and all of that based on your experience of the seafood. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of that, because obviously you're bringing that based on your experience from when living in New England, and I'm kind of intrigued because I know you have particular places that you like getting certain parts of seafood from, correct?
Well, we make the chowder. We make that from scratch.
It's a lot of chowder.
Yep.
But the good thing about it is there's a lot of clam. There's a lot of clam in it. It's not like it's not a lot of filler. It's a meaty, hearty chowder.
Yep, it's all clams. It's got some onions and celery, with lots of cream, and we put some fresh herbs in it. And the lobster bisque, there's basically just a couple of items in that. It's lobster shells and heavy cream and a little sherry wine. That's it. And we make that from scratch. And the little necks, we get those coming in fresh. We make the clams casinos with those fresh steamers. Those are coming out of Gloucester, Mass. The scallops that we get, they're from New Bedford. So we get a lot of, as much fresh seafood as we can up from New England.
I just wanted to add that when Mike makes the clam chowder, all of the shells from the clam chowder is what we utilize as our mulch.
Oh, really?
So outside,
I like
in
that.
front of the restaurant.
Reuse.
Yes,
I like that.
Yes, outside, if you look, we've got all the clam shells that come from Mike's clam chowder. And I did want to take a moment, too, to speak about the broth that Mike makes, whether it's the mussels or the clams. People ask for extra bread for the dunking more often than not. Mm-hmm. And I always tell the customer, if you have any broth left over that you haven't sipped or asked for a straw, ask us for a to-go container, and the next day take it home and pour it over some linguine.
Oh.
The broth is really, really, really good. It really is superb.
Yeah. On that broth, we start off with extra virgin olive oil. We use garlic, white wine, and some fresh butter in there, along with basil, parsley, some chives, and some green onions. So that's
It's
how
yummy.
we make it.
It's really good.
Sometimes, and do you guys also have the, and I want you to describe it because, the lazy lobster. Like, tell people a little bit about that, because obviously if you're coming in hungry, they're here to feed you. But that one is definitely a sight for definitely a sight to be able to see. So tell me a little bit about who came up with that idea to kind of go that route, and then tell people a little bit about what to expect when they were to see that, if they were to order that.
Well, we have basically two types of lazy lobsters. The 1.5 pound lazy lobster, we cook the lobster and we pull it out of the shell and then saute it with a little butter and some sherry wine and a little fresh chives, and place it back into the tail. And so there's no cracking. It's just pick
Just
it up,
enjoy.
Just enjoy. And then we have a 3 pound lobster, which we do the same. We cook it, we clean it, saute it with butter, and on that lobster we add a little shrimp and some scallops to go along with it, and we place that all back into the shell, again with a little bit of fresh butter and some sherry wine.
Okay, it's absolutely delicious. Yeah.
That's
And I think it was kind of born out of necessity for some people who said, well, I want lobster, but I don't want to do all that work.
It's a lot of work.
So we said, well, for $5 more, you can have us do it, and to me, that's a no-brainer, because like you said, you can just, all you have to do is lift your fork. That's it.
Yeah.
No cracking.
So let's talk a little bit about. I want to hear the good and the bad. So I want to hear like what's been your favorite part of this transition, because you've transitioned from working in to now owning and being part of it. So I want to know what's your favorite part of it, and then I also want to know what's been the hardest. Well, we won't say the bad. I want to know what's been the hardest transition for you, going from this role, from where you've been to where you are now.
Well, for me, the greatest thing is obviously the engaging with the guests. We have become friends with so many people, and it's much more than just a dining experience at this point. We have customers that will ask us to sit at the table with them and have a cocktail or a cup of coffee or tell us what's new, and we've gotten to know their stories. We have, Cara has always said that someone said that we're here for more than just a restaurant. We're here for many other reasons. We're doing more than feeding people. That's it. And we have developed just such wonderful relationships with our customers. We know about their kids, their grandkids, where they're traveling, the good things in their lives, the bad things in their lives. And when a lot of the customers come in, it's a hug on the way in and it's a hug on the way out. And then they bring friends and it's hugs with them as well. So for me, that's the most rewarding part about being a restaurant owner and being in this business. The tough part, I would say, is, wanting to satisfy everyone's palate when you can't. That for me is the hard thing. I don't have thick skin when it comes to someone not having enjoyed their meal, but I will always, we will always say, give us the opportunity for us to make it right when you're here, because our goal is for you to never leave on an empty belly, and to have enjoyed their meal. And we will remake your meal. We will pack something up new for you to take home, whatever it is. We simply want to ensure that you're satisfied. So that's what I guess my pro and my con would be.
For me, I got out of culinary school in '76. So I've been cooking all these years, and I still enjoy it. So
That's
for
good.
me, I still enjoy coming in every day and making different dishes, different specials, and that kind of thing. And I also enjoy teaching the staff in the back of the house about the new dishes and how to make them correctly. So, and as far as the toughest part of it, it can be a long day, which we all knew, but that's really about it, and making sure that the guys learn the new recipes, understand them, and enjoy making them.
And obviously be consistent. Like
Yeah.
that's got to be I got to imagine that's got to always be tough to be it's always being the same level of consistency when it comes to it, especially if you're not working all the time, or if you're are you here every day?
Yes.
So there is no rest for you, in reality, correct?
Not really.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a question after Cara finishes hers, because I want to know what you guys actually do for fun. If you actually do anything for fun, or you just dream about lobster. Cara, what about you? I'm kind of curious.
I think for me, very similar to what Christine said, it's been meeting the people that we've met that we would never have had the opportunity to meet. We've had guests come in that they've changed our lives. I mean, literally, I'm not exaggerating. Things that have happened in their life that they've told us about, or we were somehow involved in. Like Christine said, Mike's sister told us in the beginning, you're doing more than feeding people. And at first I was like, what are you talking about? And then we've met, there's two circumstances in particular that for me, it was a life-changing thing. And now I have relationships with these guests that come in, and that's very rewarding. And, last year when we were nominated for Best Seafood for Orlando Weekly, we opened in September, and I think it was May or June, we got an email saying, you've been nominated. We didn't even know it was a thing. Yeah. So we thought it was kind of a spam email at first. And so to know that was based on write-ins, people wrote in. We'd never promoted it. That made us feel like, wow, here we are in Apopka. We're just going day to day trying to run our business, and people like us. Sound like Sally Field. You like us. You really like us. So that's been very rewarding. For me, the toughest part, beyond, like Mike said, the hours, they're long days. They're 12, 14-hour days, 5 days a week. But you have to love what you're doing, and we love it most of the time. There's the business side of it that's not my favorite, but it's necessary. And, we're very hands-on, and that's not something that we're willing to just turn over to anybody to handle for us. First of all, we have to learn it. There's a learning curve when you own your own place. So it's not my favorite thing. I'd much rather be out on the floor talking to our guests. Yeah. So that it's kind of that stuff that just bogs you down and things like that. But other than that,
You brought up a point that I'm kind of curious, that you said Mike's sister brought up, and then that you've also said, and I'm just kind of curious on the sense that how you're like it's an experience, but it's more than just bringing food. Can you? And I'm kind of intrigued because of the fact that obviously you're a restaurant, but you guys have worked for, like you said, 5-star resorts, and so where is there a disconnect? Is it because now you're more like in that area? I'm just kind of curious because I feel like you guys are noticing this more now, that experience or that aspect of it, as opposed to when you're in like a resort or larger scheme. Is that what it is? That you kind of notice the change or the difference that you actually are making, and that it's more of, is that what it is?
I think for here, it was a very purposeful thing to find a place that was based on locals, not a tourist area. First of all, you can't depend on that, as we all found out. But we wanted to build relationships. And working in resorts, yes, you might have repeat guests who come back once or twice a year, but it's not the same as people who come in 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah. And again, like I said, when you have situations that happen to people, and when Mike's sister said that, she's very she has a very strong faith, and she just felt like there's more to this. And again, it took us a little bit for it to click. And now that we've seen, stories from people and met people, made the connections that we have, she's right, and we're better for that with the people that we've met. Some of the people that we've met. So.
I love that, though. I think that's amazing, because I think that kind of gives that. I really do. I've sat and I've seen how you, like, even your wait staff. There is definitely, and I think it's so important when it comes to having, and it speaks volumes of the fact that you have folks that have been here for so long and that have stayed with you guys, even after like the transition, because that is something that you don't see. And I know that's like always the hardest aspect of, especially in the restaurant industry, is finding people that understand what you're doing, what your mission is, what you're trying to do, and at the same time be able to kind of like, not, I mean, I don't know, have a passion and an enjoyment of what you guys are offering. I think that speaks volumes, and I've seen how you guys walk around, and I've seen part of your staff also do the same thing, the interaction, and there's different elements, and I think that's so important, and that's one of the things that I gravitated towards, was the fact of how you guys have been able to provide that. And then and obviously you're in Apopka. For me, it's a destination restaurant. Like it's 40 minutes for me to get to you guys. But I also know that I'm going to get good quality seafood. I've had it. So therefore that's one of the reasons why, that's why I brought my wife. That's why I plan to bring my parents. Because it's one of those things where we know, like, hey, I know what to get and what to expect. Which I think is great. What advice would you give someone for wanting to start something? Because this is a huge leap. You guys did it. You guys, even though you wanted to do this, you guys did this during COVID. So obviously, and obviously in a restaurant that was here already. So there's a lot of risks involved when it comes to that. But what is your advice for someone wanting to start something, or maybe even and it doesn't have to just be a restaurant, just so you know, it could be anything in general. And if you have like some kind of thing that you guys like a mantra or something that you live by, I'm just kind of curious. By all means, please feel share that as well.
Well, for me, it's a commitment. You got to make a commitment. You got to have the passion for it, and you got to come in every day and don't give up, because sometimes it's a tough day, and don't give up. Just keep the passion, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. You have to go into whatever it is that you're doing, knowing that you have to be present. You have to be present, and our guests want to see us. They want to see Cara. They want to see Mike. They want to see me. We are the owners, and they enjoy our presence in the dining room. So I guess my advice would be just know that you have to be present. You have to engage with customers and with your staff, and inspect what you expect. And commitment, like Mike said. Know that you have to be fully committed to whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, you said something about a mantra, and I had a boss once that said, "It's not what you do for people; it's how you make them feel." And it's very true, and I've kind of taken that with me too. And it takes very little. Sometimes we have we have a lot of older clientele that come in, and like my mom. My mom doesn't have much of an appetite, and so when we go out to eat, she's got very specific requests and things that not even requests, dietary restrictions and things. And so, I think when we have guests that maybe it's an older couple and they're here with their son or their daughter, and we go above and beyond. What is it you need? What can we do? And the kids, for lack of a better way of saying it, will say thank you so much. Like, you have no idea how important that was. And I do know, because I was with my mom in Boston recently, and we went to a restaurant, one of our favorite places up there, and the server was so accommodating. And I said to her, you have no idea. Like, my mom can literally get sick and end up in the hospital if she eats the wrong food. So thank you for being so accommodating. And I think, that's part of it. Again, it goes back to the service level. You have to have the service. Some people think they have a great chef or great CEO or whatever it is, but you've got to have the service. No matter what business it is, you're providing some type of a service. And you have to remember that people have a choice of where to go, and they don't have to come here, and they don't have to go to your bank. They don't have to go to your grocery store. They don't have to go. There's a choice, and you have to make it worth their while and where they want to come back. And I think as far as going from working for other people and working to yourself, it's a struggle. There's some days where, I'm like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. But then the next day is a new day, and you start over, and you say, like Mike said, there's a commitment, and you just have to get through, and you have to have a support system. You have to surround yourself with people who are like-minded. find a good accountant, find a good marketing company. We have an amazing marketing company. Those people that know what your goals are and they support you.
My last question before we wrap up is, because obviously you guys spend 14, 15-hour days here, but I definitely am a proponent of knowing, I do enjoy like knowing what do you do outside of the restaurant. So is there something that you guys do outside of the restaurant that you do for fun or that you enjoy?
I will say that for me, on my days off, as crazy as this sounds, I want to be served. So
that doesn't sound crazy at all.
Yep, I want to be served. So I will go to competitor restaurants. I go to my favorite little town, which is near me, over in Winter Garden, and hang around there. I love going to the beach, that's really it for me.
Mike, what do you do? What do you do besides think of how you're going to cook and what your orders of food coming in and all of that?
Well, I actually like going to Winter Garden as well, and staying at the Crooked Can.
Oh yeah, Crooked Can's good. What's your beverage of choice there?
I like the IPA.
Okay,
High Stepper.
Nice. The High Stepper's good.
Yep.
Cara, what about you?
I like a weekend where I have no plans. That to me is ideal because it's very rare. And I'm grateful that we have a lot of family in the area. So there's either family events or, I'm taking my mom to dinner or to a movie or whatever. But I also like, if Mike and I can just get up on a Sunday morning and go have lunch somewhere or something. It's, we don't have a lot of time to do things, and especially Mike, because even though we're closed Sunday, Monday, that's when he does his ordering, and so he doesn't have those 2 full days off.
Correct.
Like Christine and I might. So it is very limited, but really it's just, it sounds hokey, but spending time with the people that you enjoy spending time with. And like Christine, we usually go out to dinner because I don't cook, and so I don't want Mike to have to cook.
Correct.
So, and it's just nice to have someone else do the cooking and the cleaning.
Yeah, I enjoy when the kids come over on Sunday or Monday.
Yeah.
There's 3 children, and they're all adults, but I enjoy it when they come over.
At least in age, they're all adults.
That's right.
I love it. Where can people follow you guys on social? How can they come to the restaurant? Give me those details, and obviously they'll be in the show notes as well. But just so that way, people, if as they're listening, they can maybe go on their phone and kind of start following you on social media and whatnot.
Yeah, so we are on Facebook and Instagram at the Nauti Lobstah. At both, and our website is thenautilobstah.com, and it's NAUTILOBSTAH. And on our social media, we do have a great marketing company, and we work hand in hand with them to show different specials, different fun things that we've got going on, and showcase a lot of our menu items. So that's probably the best way to find us. We are closed Sunday and Monday. We are open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 until 8, which is when we take our last table, and Friday and Saturday, 11 to 8:30, which again is when we take our last table.
So I know it's you keep bringing up the marketing aspect of it, and I will say this, based on the fact that you need. It's kind of like when you're I'm gonna go total fishing analogy here, but it's like you need the good hook or the good bait to get the person in, and then once you get them in, you hook them with your service and your amazing food, and that's how you get them hooked. Because obviously, like I said, for me, if you're not in Apopka, you have to drive to come here. So it's so important to have that aspect of being able to share your story, share what you're creating and what you're doing. So I totally understand whether it's and if you have the resources and the means to be able to have someone like a Fig Media to be able to kind of help you with that, I think it's invaluable, because it is the lifeline of you being able to kind of constantly have a flow of people to come in. So I think it's a great thing. I know for me as a small brand, it's always a battle because it's just me. So I'm constantly trying to create content, and at the same time, but I also have the business side of the things and everything else that goes with it. So I totally understand that aspect of it, is because it must be very, very difficult to sometimes be like, listen, we have like this amazing food, but no one knows about it, and I need people to come in to be able to enjoy it. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So I totally get that. I definitely thank you guys so much for spending my lunch break with me.
Thank you.
I definitely will be eating some seafood very shortly. It's one of those things where, you know, I think if you're in the mood for seafood or steaks or anything like that, I mean, heck, if you're in the mood for seafood and someone else is like, hey, I'm in the mood for a good burger, guess what? Come to the Apopka, come to the Nauti Lobstah. They'll definitely take care of you. I didn't bring up the topic, but I will say this: if you want a good alcoholic beverage like the sangria,
Yes.
Christine's recipe, family recipe, you can't. It'll hit. The drinks are legit.
Yes.
It's definitely something good. It pairs very well with the seafood and the meal. So I definitely recommend it. There's a few, definitely send me a DM and let me know what I recommend for appetizers. But that's our show for today. Thank you so much to Chef Mike Rumplik, Cara Oates-Rumplik, Christine Gonzalez of the Nauti Lobster for having me on. Definitely make sure to go check them out. If you're in Apopka, you'll see all the show notes and the directions on how to address and everything like that to be able to follow them. If you want to support me, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads. If you want to check out the podcast, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, leave some stars. And by all means, I will stress this because we're very easy. And I always go on a little tangent when I go on my ending here, but we always are very easy to complain and go online and hit the social and hit the complaint. How about you take that same energy, and if you love where you're going, love a brand, love a business, love a small business, why don't you go in there and leave a review about how much you love them and how great they are, and put some stars there, okay? Just so you know. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.